Creating Essential Questions by Dr. Nancy Stockel. The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Albert Einstein. Let's meet Richard and Paul. Richard and Paul are brothers who grew up together in Washington State. They are products of a middle-class upbringing with parents who both earned professional degrees. Richard and Paul exhibit higher than average ability and are very good students. Yet there's one thing that differentiates Paul from Richard. Paul has learned to think deeply, while Richard operates from a factual and skill perspective, a surface level. What does it mean that Paul thinks deeply? Well, literally, the word deep means to extend far down from the top or surface, and to be very intense or extreme. That helps us a little in understanding deep thinking, but where exactly is far down from the surface thinking? Let's back up and describe surface thinking. I would say that surface thinking is when we briefly observe and act on information that is almost automatic. For example, when we drive our car, we can start it, put it in gear, observe, back up, and then shift to move forward, gauging all the actions and thoughts without using much cognitive. Now think back when you were first learning to drive. You had to think about how to turn on the car, think about the next step, observe carefully, back up slowly, think to reshift and pull forward slowly while all the time thinking only about driving the car. You had to think differently in the second scenario than in the first, but was it deep thinking or just focused thinking? Perhaps if we sit down in a comfortable chair and reflect upon our thinking of the car and driving, we will understand more. If I want to think deeply about driving the car, I might think about some facts. There were several parts to the car. There was the brake, the gas pedal, the shifter, the rear view mirrors, the steering wheel, the lights, the radio, and the windshield wipers. I had to recall those parts of the car to drive. Now naming those parts of the car taps my surface level knowledge. My ability to put the correct amount of pressure on the gas pedal and negotiate the steering involves my surface level skill acquisition. But I want to understand more about driving. To do this, I must consider factual knowledge and conceptual knowledge simultaneously. Conceptual knowledge relates to abstract ideas, like change and power. Now I can sit and consider the relationship between engine power and speed, but my thoughts must move to a deeper level of cognitive processing. I begin to realize that an increase in engine power is related to the pressure of my foot against the gas pedal, which in turn causes a change in the speed of the car. Now I think about wearing my hiking boots compared to driving in my sneakers and consider that I must be more cautious. I consider the implications of driving with hiking boots and the pressure that I exert on the gas pedal. Now that's deep thinking. I've considered an implication of my footwear on my driving. That's a great story, but who just sits around and thinks deeply? In our fast-paced world, we tend to function pretty much on habit and getting the facts. But consider the benefits of thinking deeply. Think about the Katrina disaster. Had more deep thinking gone into the planning and during the crisis, how many more lives might have been saved? Consider, too, how the big ideas of science have come about because of deep thinkers. Benjamin Bloom even created a taxonomy of thinking so that we might encourage students to think more in depth and use our higher forms of cognitive abilities, such as analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Oh, and by the way, Bloom's taxonomy has been revised and updated. This is the current version. Knowing facts and using skills are certainly important. However, diagnosticians need to read research and assessment data to create enduring understandings to help make logical and reasonable decisions about providing appropriate needs and services for people with disabilities and their families. These questions must do more than just tap synthesis or analysis. They must create a synergy between these two processes. When we create a question that includes abstract concepts and places them into a relationship, we have an essential question. Let's look at some examples. Here are 3 different statements that move from surface thinking to deep thinking. The first is a fact, the second a skill, and the third is an enduring understanding. When a diagnostician can generate an enduring understanding, he can make informed decisions when the data is variable or unclear. Enduring understandings are universal, open-ended, provocative, stimulating, and require complex thinking. Understandings consist of abstract concepts like these. They are universal, timeless, broad, and represented by 1 or 2 words. To create an enduring understanding, the diagnostician identifies the abstract concepts and places them into a relationship. Here are some examples of enduring understandings. Read each one and think about how it is different from a simple fact. In this slide, see if you can find the facts versus enduring understandings. If you selected numbers 1 and 4, you are correct. If you didn't get these correct, look at them again. Remember that enduring understandings can be applied to many disciplines like math, sociology, science, and others. The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day.